Hey everybody, welcome back to Swift Guitar Lessons. This week I decided I'm going to teach a little Pearl Jam, and to do that I'm going to need a Fender Stratocaster. So today we're going to put some TLC into this American Strat. We're going to begin by fixing this tremolo system, which as you can see is floating much too high. The distance between the bottom of the tremolo system and the body should be about 1/8 of an inch, but right now it's about twice that. So the first thing we need to do is remove this back plate. We're going to tighten a couple of screws right here, and that is going to pull the tremolo system down toward the body. All right, from there we're going to restring this guitar with some long-lasting, corrosion-resistant Elixir strings, which are great for where I live, real close to the ocean. And then we're going to test the intonation of the guitar by managing the distance of the saddles to the nut. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so the first step is to remove that back plate. That's going to reveal the tremolo springs, which are connected to 2 screws. Those screws can be tightened, thus increasing the tension and pulling that bridge closer to the body. Now, once again, my goal is to have a little bit of space or float between the bottom of the bridge and the body of the guitar. Now, the reason for this is when you have that float, it allows you to whammy in both directions. If I was to tighten those screws completely, then that would force the bridge all the way down until it was flush with the body, meaning that I'd only be able to whammy downward, which is great for doing those rock-style dive bombs, but I'm looking for some more versatility. Okay, so I'm just going to tighten it a little bit, and then see where I am. Every time I make an adjustment, I'm going to retune it, put it back into standard tuning, because the strings are also going to manipulate the tension. So the screws and these springs are pulling this way, but the strings are going to be pulling from the opposite direction, right? So we need to make sure that we're in standard tuning, and then we're going to measure that distance to make sure that it's appropriate. Okay, so that took a little bit of doing, but as we can see, now we just have a little bit of a float, about 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch, and that's going to give me the ability, like I said, to tremolo in both directions. Okay, now that we have the bridge float set, we can reinstall that cover plate, making sure that little rectangle is on the appropriate side so we have access to the strings. We're going to remove them in just a minute. Okay, now that we've set the tremolo system, now we can remove the old strings. We're going to start off by loosening them. Check it out right here. I got my drill and this handy little bit. I'm going to put a link for this down in the description. Okay, so we got the strings off the headstock. Now the next step, which is the case with Telecasters and Stratocasters, any guitar that has this type of tremolo system, we're going to remove the old strings from the back of the guitar. Just push through and hello. And one quick tip, of course you can cut the strings nice and short, and now they're not going to be all tangled up, they're going to be much easier to remove. See? Easy does it. Okay. These go into the trash can right away, so that way your youngsters don't get a hold of them and poke themselves, or you don't suck them up with your vacuum cleaner, anything like that. Alright, now that we have the guitar destrung, this is the perfect opportunity to give it a good wipe down. My go-to products are Lizard Spit guitar polish and fretboard conditioner, and for this part of the job, I like to turn to my in-house guitar tech in training, Adelka. This stuff smells great. But these frets aren't that dirty, just a little bit right here. Okay, now that we have ourselves a mean, clean picking machine, we're ready to put on some new strings. Of course, I'm using Elixir 946s. These are great for people who live close to the shore. They are corrosion resistant and long lasting. Okay, so we're starting with the thickest string first. 46 for these 946 gauge strings. All right, for a Stratocaster, all right, you gotta make sure that you put it through the right hole. So if you're turning your guitar this way, we're gonna go through the top hole. Okay, just like that. Okay, from there we're going to pull that string all the way through the body, guide it over to the headstock, and thread it through the appropriate tuner. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, how much slack should you give the string? Well, after you've threaded it all the way through the tuner, you can pinch it and pull it back 1 fret's distance, and you're gonna give it a little bit more slack as you go up the string gauges. All right, now, we're gonna attempt to do this John Crotty style.
You're welcome.
If you remember my previous video from a few weeks back, I had a pro luthier show us how to restring our guitars without tying knots. So, as we tighten it, we're gonna have the slack go under and then over. Check it out. Slack goes under, and then the slack goes over. Okay, let me pull that out so it stays neat. Okay, from there, I'm just gonna tighten it slowly, keeping the string as taut as I can by pulling up. And right there, that's exactly how we want it. All right, so now we're gonna repeat that same process for the other 5 strings, trim off the excess, and then it's gonna be time to set our intonation. Okay, now the last thing that I wanna do for this guitar today is set the intonation. Now the intonation basically is your guitar's ability to voice the correct note whenever you press down on a given fret. Now, if you take a look at the guitar here, what dictates that is the length of the string, or the distance between the saddle and the nut right over here. Okay, if I play an open string like open E, and then that's in perfect tune, right? And then I play maybe the 5th fret of the same string, it should voice an A note. But sometimes it's gonna be a little flat, a little bit sharp, and if it's sharp, that means that the string is too short, and if it's flat, that means that the string is too long. The way we check this is we would play the open string, get it perfectly in tune. Okay, now that E note is in perfect tune, obviously there's better tuners to use. To make this as visible as possible, I'm using the app. Okay, now I'm gonna test the 12th fret and see if it produces, see I got the 12th fret, I'm gonna see if it produces an E note as well. All right, that's pretty good. There's a margin of error there, right? And as the note kind of decays, it tends to flatten out a little bit. But that initial note was an E note. So I'm gonna go down the line and test all the strings. But let's say we got one that's real messed up. I'm gonna mess it up on purpose. Okay, let's say it's real flat. So I'm gonna tighten this screw, which is going to pull back the saddle. Now, if I go to, if I tune it back to G, and then test the 12th fret, it's gonna be really flat, okay? Because I tightened that screw, I pulled the saddle back, I tightened that screw right there, pulled the saddle back, it made the string longer, and now my intonation is all messed up. So the way we fix this is we make sure we're in perfect tuning, and then gradually make that string shorter by loosening the saddle. Every time we make an adjustment, we need to retune the string. If you look at the tuner, and now we test the 12th fret. You can see I'm just a hair off. I just need to make that string a little bit shorter, again, by loosening the screw. I'm seeing the saddle move closer to the pickups. And that means I'm shortening the length or the distance between the saddle and the nut. It's a process, because you have to keep retuning that string. And it has to be right on the 0. Then I check again. And right there, just like that, we have that G string perfectly intonated. I need to do the rest of the strings, all 6 strings, the exact same way. But that's probably the #1 thing that you can do to make your guitar feel and play better. And I'm so regretful that for so many years of my career as a guitarist, I didn't prioritize intonating my guitar properly. But once I started doing it, I realized, wow, it just makes such a huge difference in the playability and the amount that I'm able to enjoy my guitar. So I hope you enjoyed this and that you found this tutorial useful.